That would be that would be up to you.
No, that's fine. I'm a little nervous, but okay, I'll do it. If everyone can do it, I can do it too.
Go, Lana, go.
All right. I wanted to share this I believe story in honor of RD. It's a little personal of my childhood, but don't be, when you hear it at first, don't be like, weirded out. Okay, because it's a happy ending. Okay, is someone else coming?
Oh, I think everybody here, the gang is pretty much all here.
Okay, well then I'm ready.
So we should mute each other?
Oh, yeah, we
okay.
should mute. Yeah. Except Lana.
All right, here I go. My story is called Call Me Peppermint. In the 70s, my home was the concrete jungle of Los Angeles, Chinatown. I was a latchkey kid and I walked to many places by myself around town. I thought I knew how to stay away from strangers and gangbangers. Being the youngest in my family of 5, I was easy to overlook who was supervising me. I was usually bullied by older kids who were my siblings' friends, and I learned to fight against their meanness and teasing. One time, a local kid released his big security dog on me. As it chased me, I ran until I got so tired, I dropped to the ground sobbing, crouched in the fetal position, ready to take my fate, to be eaten alive. And then the dog stopped too, panting heavily. We looked into each other's eyes, and I gained inner strength from its stare. After that, I became less afraid of barking dogs. Rather, I would feel their anxiety of being chained or lonely in the yard. And I learned to respect and admire these dogs that were not pets, but used property. I taught myself to act like the Tasmanian devil from Bugs Bunny cartoons. And I'd spin myself in a frenzy with my arms and legs moving about, spitting and hitting my enemies. One time, a man drove up in his car half naked from the waist down, trying to grab me, but I Tasmanian deviled away. A year before this incident, I lived with my grandparents in Cambridge, Mass for a year without my parents. It was an ethnically diverse neighborhood surrounded by projects. Cambridge was so different from my previous home in Chinatown, where it was an Asian ghetto surrounded by Hong Kong immigrants and Asian gangs protecting their turf from Mexicans. As long as you didn't look different, no one would bother you. In Cambridge, there were so few Asians, my features were a visible target to be yelled and cursed at. After experiencing my first street fight at age 8, I wasn't hurt, just bruised and scared. My grandmother tried to watch over me, even picking me up after school. And I wasn't used to having someone greet me or feed me after school, but I liked it. Unfortunately, she couldn't watch me during my entire childhood. If she had, I probably would have had a much more pleasant one. Back in Los Angeles, instead of joining Girl Scouts, I volunteered as a police explorer scout at my local police station. This station was in the worst part of town. To participate in a meeting, I had to take a bus to Skid Row and walk past drug dealers and prostitutes to get to the station. I watched for cars cruising by with dark windows because I had heard stories of girls being grabbed. And the police station had a program for local teens training us on police work and going on ride-alongs with real police. Later on, as an adult, I wanted to join the force, but I couldn't meet the height requirement. In the 80s, my family moved out of the ghetto to the suburbs to a brand new townhouse complex where I had access to a huge pool and tennis courts. And I used these facilities almost every day, and it seemed like a dream come true until I realized I had attracted my very own stalker. This stalker would mail me letters writing about how he watched me swim, what he thought of me. He seemed to know a lot about my daily routine. Eventually, the letters would get more detailed and include his weird fantasies and Polaroids too. He wrote that if I told anyone about his letters, he would kill my family. I was only about 16, and this stranger made my high school junior year a living hell. And I trusted no males in my life and was scared to tell anyone. Eventually, after 6 torturous months, I went to see the sheriffs. And when the female sheriffs read my letters, she was deeply offended by its contents. But since I could not prove who it was that sent them to me, they could not easily make an arrest. But I had a lead, which I shared with them, and they visited this person the next day. They ended up helping me scare the man away so that he left not only the complex, but the country and never returned. I learned later that my other neighbor, an elderly gentleman whom I looked up to in a grandfatherly way, had gossiped about me to this man who was visiting from Korea. So yes, I had a real stalker in my life, but what makes my reality even stranger was that my complex a few years later, we experienced a much more violent stalker who killed over 15 people and victimized many, many more. 2 of his victims were women who lived in the very same complex as me. Their townhouse was closest to the pool and tennis courts. This killer was Richard Ramirez, also known as the Night Stalker. He terrorized our community for a year until he was caught in 1985. And during this time, he killed about over 10 people within a few feet to a few miles from my home. And he was responsible for other horrific crimes as well. These events in my childhood and early adulthood sometimes depressed me, but I stayed resilient. I learned to recognize bullies and manipulators. When I encounter bullies today, I want to take them down. As a parent, when my own kids were being picked on by their classmates, I give them permission to sock their bullies in the arm or use their loud voice, but none of my kids ever resorted to physical violence or screaming. Even though I act meek, when I see wrongdoing, I carefully try and point it out, especially in the workplace. It's not easy to do, and I fret about it as well. So one day I came upon a fascinating movie called Peppermint. It was about a stressed out working mom whose family was killed in a senseless act of gang violence. She tried to put away these murderers in prison, but the judge was corrupt. So she leaves the country to train in MMA and gun and knife skills and returns to exact revenge on those who got away with these killings. She also becomes the protector of the weak and innocent in the same community I grew up in. The movie scenes show the same streets that I walked to get to the police station when I was younger. So I resonated with this movie as it was shot all over LA in my hood where I grew up. I recently started learning Wing Chun self-defense, and it opened sensitive memories. Letting my intensity out with boxing gloves and solid kicks makes me feel good. And these exercises help me relate to the motherly character who kicks and beats up the bad guys. This movie symbolizes my need to continue protecting my family from bullies, to try and improve my community, my workplace setting, even if it's just little old me. I hope I can change the trajectory of events to better our community. This I believe. That's it.
Oh my gosh, Lana, that was incredible. Thank you
Really?
so much for sharing your life with us. And I don't know, as your cousin, I get to know you much more. And I'm just really, really touched that we are connected. I mean, there's much more I can talk about, but I'm just going to leave it to other people. My mind is just like reeling with all of these experiences that you've been through, but here you are, and I'm just like so grateful that you're here as part of the Bells, and for you to share your story. I mean, this is, to me, was definitely an incredible piece of your memoir, but that you know, that touches on so many issues and experiences and life, and I don't know, and also for me having a connection with you, and so I'm just gonna leave it at that for now. I'm just filled with oh my gosh, so much emotion. Thank you.
Yeah, it was kind of hard to write. I actually just contributed a poem for most of it. And then Heather kind of encouraged me to share something. So I've never shared this with anybody before. I tried to share a little bit of with my kids, but you know, and my husband knows that I, you know, was stalked, but he doesn't know the details.
Right, right.
Yeah, no, but nobody knows. And it's still all in my head, but you guys know a piece of it now.
Oh, thank you so much for sharing. Oh my gosh.
Well, thank you for hearing. It was very therapeutic to
Yeah.
write.
I was
Thank you.
just going to say that, Lana, that I hope this was therapeutic and a purge of a lot of what you've been holding inside since you were a child. That's quite a history. And I look at you now with, you know, the family you've grown and put together and how you're living your life. And you're a tough cookie. You really are. You're so gentle in, you know, your demeanor and how you share is, even all of this was just in such a gentle way. I applaud you. We are very strong when we need to be, when we're
Yeah.
called on, we are very strong, and you're amazing. Thank you
Oh.
for sharing that. That was intense. Thank you.
You all make me strong.
Aw.
So thank you.
Can I just say something really quick? We talk about still waters running deep. You know, like you're probably one of the last people in our group, at least, that I would have ever thought had it so rough as a kid and had all this going on and a history like this. It's funny, you and Rita Maida, like to me, seem like so demure and so quiet, you know, like maybe nothing has ever brushed you, you know, that would be horrible or violent, you know, and but it just goes to show you, you just never know, you know, you never know what's going on with somebody or what somebody's history is. And wow, wow, I'm just so blown away that you shared all this with us. And I'm even more impressed with you than I've ever been before. And I was always impressed with you, like in a big way. So I'm just, you know, blown away. Thank you so much.
I think Nancy wanted to say something.
Well, in Kung Fu, they always tell you to watch out for the quiet ones. The ones that stay back and don't brag about how strong they are and what arts they know and what they can do. They said it's the quiet ones that have the real strength. And what struck me about the story was that it wasn't the men, the fathers, the uncles, the police in the police station. It was the women, the grandmother that watched after you after school, you that's watching after your daughter as she goes to school. Women have a lot of power. And just because they're not out there flexing their muscles and joining MMA and doing all this stuff, they have a lot of power. And I'm glad that you decided to take those self-defense classes so that that power can extend out and help other women. Because it's the women and the mothers and the grandmothers and the aunts and the girlfriends that are going to turn this around. Thank you for that story.
Thank you, Nancy. The funny thing about when I'm in self-defense and I have my kids with me, they're scared of me. I do hit them hard, and I tell them hit me hard. And one time they socked me in the jaw, and I actually had to sit down for a while. But saying sorry, I said, no, don't be sorry. I wanted it.
How you train is how you fight. If
Okay.
you train where you never take a punch, and I'm not talking about being beat to smithereens. I'm talking about being able to not flinch when a fist comes. And
Right.
my grandkids, their father is 6'1", 260 pounds. He went to college on a wrestling scholarship. But when kids are beating them up in the schoolyard and calling them names, they call grandma. They don't call their father. There you go. My grandma's going to give you a peach wand. Peach wand is the fist that my teacher taught us as the most effective, quickest way to stop somebody in their tracks. So that's their call. My grandma's coming after you with a peach wand. So, hang in there.
I will. Thanks.
Johan.
Thank you, Lana, for sharing this with us. It's an honor that you share this with us. And you said you didn't share it so often with your kids, okay, so that they are prepared for life. It shows how strong you are. And you said you are a little person. I didn't know that. I can't believe that. For me, you are very strong and a tall, great person. I was very scared. I had a stalker too. It's a long time ago. It was very scary, and I'm physically tough, so he didn't scare me physically, but he was always there when I went somewhere. It was so horrible for at least, I think, 1 year. And it ended with him moving into the apartment under my apartment.
Oh my God.
Oh my God, yeah, this was so scary. But then I figured out that I don't want this person to do any more steps into my life. And I started ignoring this person. To, you know, don't see him when I see him, and this was the only way to stop this person. It was very hard for a couple of weeks, but then the person lost interest in, you know, following me, and it shows me how strong you are, and I'm so grateful that you shared this with us. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Johan.
Leticia.
Wow, Lana. Thank you so much for sharing. As Johan said, it's an honor. I've always wondered, because you are very gentle, and I've always thought it's not just that. So as much as you are gentle, you are extremely brave, and you've been brave your whole life. At 5, having to be brave, that's your whole life. And it's incredible that you have learned to count on yourself, because as we always say, first is ourselves. And you've done this all your life. And as Nancy said, I'm really happy that you are taking all these combat classes to express this power, which has been, it's there, and it has expressed itself probably during your whole life at specific times and in specific situations, but always in a restrained, I imagine, in a restrained type of energy. And at the same time, I'm glad that now you can express it, because you must feel that you are sometimes like a volcano, with all this pent up power that you had to sort of rein in. Then that must have taken so much effort, instead of just, you know, going for the person or really screaming it out or whatever. So I think your strength is monumental. Wow.
Thank you.
Really brave woman. I admire you. I have admired you before, but now I see that it's as if it's full energy, it's full strength, it's full just strength and resilience. Good Lord. Wow. Thank you, Lana.
It's a Appreciate your words.
Wow.
Mary Beth. You have to unmute Mary Beth.
Wow, I have to say that too. Coming off of what Leticia said, it brought to the mind the term full tilt boogie, because my friend who was Australian, I met him in Bali, he was this big surfer and he used to always use that phrase. But wow, and what's so amazing, Lana, is, I mean, again, I echo what everyone has said, is that your generosity of spirit, like, it hasn't hardened you, that you're still so kind to people. It's so touching. I mean, it's just to think of like what you went through and the strength that you came out the other side, and you're such a beautiful person. I mean, I just think it's wonderful. And I can relate in the way that I, a latchkey kid and 3 older brothers, and they, harangued me over the toilet and flushed my head down it and all that stuff. And I had a brief stalker, nothing to that extent at all. And I think about how terrified I was just in my paper route at 4:30 in the morning. And he just went on the same street, and spooked around, but there wasn't anything like you had. Holy cow. That's really, and just to speak, it speaks to your, like, what you did. It's such a wonderful example of like how we should love ourselves. You went to the police and you learned, and you exposed yourself. So I just thank you for sharing that. I see, and then there's part of me, there's so much going on, but there's part of me that's like, I see a movie. Do you ever act? Because it's such a beautiful story. And to pick up on Nancy's observations, that it's the woman that is so empowering, and women sometimes tear each other down. So this is such an uplifting, story in so many ways, as horrible as it is. And I just appreciate it. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you. And thank you, Mary Beth, for saying, I think any stalker experience is awful. It doesn't matter like how worse it was or how bad this other person was. The fact that you are scared because somebody could be watching you, it's powerful. And it's now, we need to do something about it. My daughter has the same problem right now. She has an ex-boyfriend that, although he probably doesn't stalk her, he goes through social media to try to find her and talk to her. And so she's going through something as well. So I think perhaps opening up for me, maybe I can help her in some way as well. Yeah.
Lee.
Lana, Oma, yes. I feel the courage you had just to open up for us, even though, this is such a trusting group. You admitted your nervousness because this is such a raw, open, vulnerable story. So I feel just as honored, but to bear witness to your story that you just shared us. It's remarkable. And yeah, I can't thank you enough for just letting us hear and let some of this come out, so that somehow, even though you've been working through your healing through this, your strength and resilience are, very apparent to us. And I felt the same as Nancy listening to your story. Like, that's one thing that was very strong, the women, but the other woman you mentioned, if I'm not wrong, was the sheriff.
Yeah.
Did you say there was a woman sheriff, which I thought was really profound, that was the one person that when you went to, that was there also. And to have that, the concern about going, as the person had threatened you if you had exposed this. But I thought that was really great. Like, you had these women surrounding you with their knowledge and help, from your grandmother to that woman, as well as you bringing out your own with your family. I mean, women are the protectors. Women will do anything and everything, right, to protect their family and the ones they love. So that's within you, and very strong. But listening to your story, it really, like, I just like Dee, I was like, oh my gosh, I can't believe this is the story I'm hearing. Like, this is like fiction. It's like you were telling us a story that was not real. However, it is your story, and it is a story of many, many other people in different ethnic groups or minority groups who have experienced such violence and rage against them. And the fact that that movie, which came into your life, because that is apparently, you know, reflecting real life. People in LA who have experienced this, or other areas of the country or world. So I was just like, I mean, I'm in my mind, I'm like, this is her real story. You know, I just kept trying to like, this is, you know, like beyond what I'd ever expect also coming from you or anyone I know. But thank you for sharing, and to work with your, to understand how we can defend ourselves as women, which is so empowering, to give us the, you know, women and young girls, the strength and knowledge on how we can actually really be as safe as we can. And so, yes, the martial arts, I mean, about 20 years ago, a friend of mine who was a martial artist had a self-defense for women class, which I took. And I have to say, you know, it was really so worth it. I mean, it was, I think it was just a day class, but just to show you very specific techniques of how you even carry yourself walking down the street, you know, how you, to be aware and looking, and, you know, just many aspects. You know, you don't even have to know how to fight, but it is about how you can use your body if necessary. So to keep that up, I think just to have classes for young women and girls, you know, in the communities is so key. It's just empowering. That's just as martial arts are empowering for young kids, but especially girls, right? So I all for that, and for you doing that yourself and encouraging your girls to do it. And we have to really help each other as we do, the women. But wow, thank you for sharing. Yeah, you are, yeah, you blew me away, even though, yeah, you're, you know, your quiet demeanor, which that, as Nancy said, that doesn't, you know, you have so much in your history and within your heart and soul that is just so amazing. Thank you. Just thank you for opening up, because that's so hard. Like I say, the courage just to speak to us. And wow. Yeah, you're kick-ass, Lana.
No, it's funny. My story is nothing compared to probably a lot of other stories out there.
Well, I mean, yeah, that's true. I mean, but that's, your story is really one to share, you know, it really is. Once you're able to open up, but even just share just with your, you know, getting women and young girls empowered, you know, whether they know the whole story or not.
Right.
Thank you. Love you.
I love you guys too.
On that note, Lana, you mentioned you were talking about your daughter, and you said, well, she has an ex-boyfriend. He's not really a stalker, but he's following her on social media and looking up and trying to find out where she is. That's stalking.
Okay.
You don't have to be looking in a window or writing letters. That's a big, big red flag.
Okay.
So make sure your daughter is very clear about what's stalking, what's acceptable, and where her boundaries are. Keep records of everything. Anytime this guy makes a comment about her to other people, write it down, write the date. Because yeah, stalking begins with little stuff and escalates.
Right. And she did have a restraining order, but because it was so minor, they only gave it 6 months, and they wouldn't make it last any
The
longer.
restraining orders don't help. By the time the police get there, it's too late. One officer told me, keep records in a copy notebook that are bound together, not a loose leaf where you can slide in pages.
Okay.
A black and white copy notebook where everything is consecutive, every date, every time, every action, and report everything, no matter how minor you think it is, because these people have to be taken off the street. They do.
Okay. Thank you, Nancy. Thank you for the good advice. Hey, Tammy.
Yeah, like
I'm just sitting here. I don't even know. There's so many things I want to say, but I don't know what to say. You know, you alluded at some point that your childhood wasn't, you know, Ozzie and Harriet or whatever. But yeah, again, like, wow, I have no idea at all. And when you said Call Me Peppermint, the first thing that came to mind was that movie, but I totally let it go because I'm thinking it's going to be about candy or something. I don't know. And sure enough, it was. And I just was like, oh my gosh, you know, this cannot be happening to this woman that I have come to know over these last couple of years. You know, what everybody said, you just don't present yourself that way. But I'm really so inspired because you really do, like Nancy said, and you have to stand up to the bully. And there's ways of doing it, but you cannot let them get away with it. Yeah. And you take your power back, which you did. Now, as a little child, I can't imagine having the wherewithal. I guess it's a survival, you know, instinct, right, to do what you did, because you're not having the guidance, you know, or the support or the nurturing that you needed. But somewhere inside, you know, there it came. And you know, I just know when I've stood up to people who I let, you know, not even so much bully me, but, you know, scare me. And I say, I'm not afraid of you anymore. Just, you know, it's so empowering to do that. And they stop. They normally stop. And, you know, I don't know if that happens every time or how far you have to go. I guess it depends on the situation, but I'm so glad that you're taking the steps to show your daughters, and it will have that rippling effect. They'll tell their friends, and it will go out, you know, like you said. And when you see something, you do have to do something. Yeah. You know, it might not be, like you said, it depends on the situation, but you're just so inspiring to me. And again, I'm just in awe. I can't even imagine how afraid you must have been. And at 16 years old, to have something like that happen, I mean, it makes me physically just, and so I'm glad that you did have the wherewithal and courage to go to the sheriff, you know, at that point, because it's hard to do. I mean, and to tell your story, like everyone said, and I'm so honored that you did that with us, they said. And I don't know, I guess I'll always look at you as Lana, but I'm just, I don't know, you are just carrying on the strong woman.
I hope so. But I think I had luck in my grandmother, my paternal. Yeah. It wasn't just 1 year I had her. After I came back to LA, she followed me back, and she would visit as much as she could for like 10 years afterwards. So I was, not 10 years, maybe until I was like 13. She was the only one who gave me hugs. So when you find someone like that, you gotta honor them.
Thank goodness for her.
Yeah. I think after she passed, I could feel her spirit helping me. Thank you. Oh boy.
Lana, do you know Charlie Brown and his gang, Snoopy and Charlie Brown, the cartoon?
Yeah, I love it.
Well, Peppermint Patty is the strong leader of that group.
Yeah, I didn't think about that. You're right.
She is.
Yeah, that's true. I didn't have a Brady Bunch childhood, but I watched it a lot. So I had something to go on when I had my own family. So it's a start.
Lana.
Yeah.
When you called and said you kind of wanted to do a This I Believe story, but then you weren't sure and you felt like maybe it was too dark or too heavy. And I just kept saying, oh, just do it, just do it. And I am so blown away of your story and so honored and touched that you did finally get it down on paper and you did share it with all of us. I'm truly moved by your essay. And you're an excellent writer. I loved how you described things throughout, like the beginning, you were talking about the dog and the sense of empathy you had for the dog. And when you said something about being Tasmanian deviled, like I just was like, just really brought into your story with the words you use and how you describe things. So I just really would love to encourage you to write more or to this is definitely a memoir or a story. This could be a whole movie or a whole series and I'm just so grateful that you shared this story. And I think once you have the courage and you obviously have courage and strength, and once you have the courage and strength to share this beyond our group, I think it could just really inspire and encourage and help so many others. I could relate with so much of your story throughout. I can't tell you the amount of chills I got on my entire body. I wrote it down like maybe 4 different times at 4 different parts of your story. For me, I personally could relate. I was bullied as well as a child, and I also had a stalker. I think it was called more of a peeping Tom, and he would come in my house, and I remember that how scared I felt to even come home at night and walk around my house with a knife going room to room to make sure someone wasn't in my house. So I totally understand that feeling of just not being safe anymore in your own house. And I agree with Nancy to write it all down because it's so hard to prove. I had, analysts coming out and fingerprint experts, and it was hard to get it's really hard. So I love that you gave that advice, Nancy. But my whole point is not about me. It's about that you touched upon all these things that I too personally went through. And by sharing your story, not to diminish my story, but it made my story not seem so bad. Because yours was so much, unfortunately, so much worse that I'm like, oh, that's nothing compared to my bullying story. And that's nothing compared to my stalker. And I don't mean that to diminish what I went through, because I might have had exactly the same feelings that you had or the same amount of being scared as you had, but it made me feel better about what I went through. So I just think maybe you could share that, and that could help so many other children and so many other people that have been through exactly the same thing. But I was just honored and touched. And then so interesting that you started bringing up the serial killer, because I just told RD last night that I went to bed the other night with, I was reading all about Gacy, the serial killer. Like I think they called him the clown or whatever. And I don't know what possessed me to start reading about him. And I think I'm really fascinated by serial killers, and I'm fascinated about their brains and how it works. And I was just telling someone yesterday, I broke my phone trying to let out a roach because I couldn't even kill a roach. So I don't even know how somebody could, where does that come from, or how did they get to that place? And I guess when I was reading John Gacy's story, I was really trying to understand his mind and what he went through as a child. I kind of could feel, not have sympathy or empathy that he killed someone, but I could see where it came from and what an awful childhood he had and where it came from. And so anyway, it was just interesting that you also brought that into your story, which is just a fascinating. And then the movie Peppermint, I got chills when you said it was the same place you were from. Like so many layers of your story just were so, thank you for sharing your strength and your resilience and your courage.
Thank you.
And your strength, resilience, and courage for sharing your story with us.
Wow. Thank you, Heather.
It was amazing, Lana. And it was not dark and heavy. I didn't feel that. I mean, yes, it was on a little bit of the, you know, it was a story that was maybe a little more on the darker side, but I didn't feel that darkness and heaviness like you were scared that you were sharing. It was a really amazing, and I love those kind of movies and stuff. So it just was like, it really captivated me and got me in there, and I loved it. I loved it.
Okay, thank you. It makes me feel better. And just so you know, I have trouble even killing cockroaches, even though they're the worst hated, they're my worst hated bug ever. Anyway, so, but I will do it if it's gonna enter my home.
Linda.
Linda.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. Thank you, Lana, for sharing your bravery, your compassion. At the same time, you're still just like, you know, everyone has said your generous spirit, but you are a warrior woman. That's what I feel. You are a warrior woman. And I'm so proud of you for that. Thank you for sharing your story. Thank you for sharing your story. Remind me, I had, as I remember, I don't know why I did it, but I remember watching Oprah years ago about how women have strength in the most, where they have the strength is in their legs. And they had this group company called Model Mugging at the time, and I actually found it in New York. And I actually took the training because I had childhood trauma that I needed to work through to make sure I'm protected. And thank God I never had a stalk or anything, but it's just to know how I can protect myself without having to use a weapon or something that can have, you know, using my voice and shouting and de-escalating something if it does happen. And then just remembering that, the training that I did. So it was very, very key to helping me therapeutically in my life. So definitely proud of you for doing that and doing the martial arts.
Thank you, Linda.
You're welcome, sweetheart. You're welcome. Love you so much. Thank you for sharing your story and being brave to share it with us. Very honored.
Me too.
Me too.
And Nancy, I want to learn that thing, not right now, but I want to learn that thing you were talking, that punch or that thing you were talking about.
We'll do it in Meryl's next class. It's really simple.
Okay, well, I want to learn it. We were walking home last night at 2 a.m. and I did not feel safe. And I was being like, Lana, your story even brought that, like, to be aware and to, you know what's going on. And the New York, our street is just not the same. And when you were talking about your story, that's what my street feels like with all the drug addicts and the homeless people. And it just doesn't feel safe. So I would be more empowered just to know a little movement.
Okay, in Meryl's class, we'll go over it. Remind me.
Okay.
Thank you.
Barbara, can you unmute?
Barbara has been having problems.
It's okay.
You have to unmute.
I guess we're not meditating today.
Oh, yes, we can definitely meditate today. I mean, oh, she can't connect. Barbara's been having difficulty all during this. Don't worry, Barbara.
Oh, there must be a place on your phone to just, does anyone know where it is on the phone?
Is that it?
Hey, yay, she got it.
Wow, all that time, my God. I'm sorry I got kicked off. We've been having blackouts since last week, intermittent blackouts, so that I got hit by that. And I think Lana, I don't remember. I think I got kicked off when you were talking, just after you were talking about the dog, your confrontation with the dog, and I forgot what the next one was, but what I was hearing was not a victim. What I was hearing was this powerful warrior within you that you don't express on a daily basis. You're just so angelic and low key, and you're just a very, very sweet person, but you've got fire in your belly, and that fire, it just comes forth when it needs to be there. But it just feels like you also have your ancestors watching over you. And when you need to call on what you need to call on, whether you do it consciously or in your gut or subconsciously, it's there for you. I didn't hear all of it, so but I heard other bells sharing the stalker. I understand that. I was stalked. Many of us have been stalked, and it's a horrible, horrible feeling. And about your daughter, I heard some of that, and I'm glad you're teaching her. And I think all the advice that you got is excellent. I have pepper spray, and I have a taser because I live here alone. So I don't know if you want to introduce that to your daughter for her to carry with her, because as Nancy's saying, order of protection is a piece of paper. It's all it is, and a piece of paper does not protect you. You have to find ways to, people have to find ways to protect themselves. And I believe that in New York, or where are you, Lana? You're in California.
Yeah, near Los Angeles.
You have to check and see if carrying a taser is legal.
Yeah.
Yeah, because your daughter can do everything that she can possibly do, but if he wants to come after her, she has to have something on her physically to protect herself. Because they can be so relentless.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, we are, so many of us are loving people, so loving, kind, compassionate, and giving. And it's wonderful to be that, but we also have to be aware that everyone is not like that. And we get these experiences that teach us that okay, I'm this giving person, but there are people out there who are not in that state. They're not in that place. And so we have to do things to make sure that where they are doesn't affect us in such an adverse way. Because I'm sure you were traumatized and your daughter's traumatized. That's what happens. And so you have to take care of yourself and do things to make sure that it never happens again to you and to the people that you love. So I hear that you've been teaching your daughter. And so that is very, very good. Very good. Yeah. And I honor your strength, your courage, your power. You don't think you have power, but you do. You are a powerful, powerful woman.
As you
and
are.
Someday you will believe that. And maybe after sharing your story and hearing from everyone, maybe now you can embrace yourself as a powerful woman, a powerful being. And your power is extended to your family and your friends. You express it whether you realize it or not. You walk softly on this earth, but you have this tremendous power that affects everyone. So I too am honored. I'm so honored to know you. I'm so sorry that I missed so much of your short story, but I'm going to the video to watch it because I know RD is going to do that. I'm going to do that. I'm going to listen. And if you don't mind, I would like to respond again because I would like to hear the full story. So sorry I missed it, but I can feel the energy and I can feel you. And I'm grateful to be a part of you and that you're a part of me and life, the earth, this planet that we live on. Whether you realize it or not, just being who you are, you vibrate the world with your life. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you, Barbara.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
Leticia.
I just have one short comment. I remember one of the first things that you showed us when you were doing activities is Japanese folkloric dancing, which is very controlled, very discreet. And then you have Lana, the Japanese dancer, and you have Lana, the combat girl. So it's the yin and the yang. I love it. And I really love it. And as everyone said, your strength and all that, but I think you can, maybe this essay allows you to really start expressing both in a dynamic way, which you have already done anyways, but now to even embrace it even more. So, je t'aime, Lana.
Thank you. You all.
She's a samurai in a kimono.
Yeah.
It's funny, but both lessons are on Saturday. I do self-defense first and then I go dance.
It's the yin and
Good plan.
yang.
Good plan.
Ah. So you
I-
also all this time you've been actually training your body, training your psyche. So there are a lot of things you just do automatically. You just automatically respond in the moment. You have that capability to do that.
I didn't think about that, but I guess so.
Ah, interesting. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sure.
Can I just
Very
say
good.
one more thing that I thought also was really fantastic about your story, the detail that you said you chose not to be a Girl Scout, but you were, and I didn't know what you were referred to. What was that you were?
Oh, a police explorer out.
And how
it's-
old were you?
I was 13.
See, that's also just shows that unbelievable, and I'm sure you didn't know what was happening and why, but your body and your mind were like, I want to do this. I want to learn how to do this, but I also want to protect my community at that age. And I thought that was so amazing to hear, because I'm not familiar with that program if, you know, it's in all inner cities or other places. I was a Girl Scout, and I think there was great things about being a Girl Scout, like other things, but that was really, I think, a huge part of the story. Like as Heather explained, the different, you know, the different parts of your story, that the details that were showing the growth of you through this turbulent time, this really, you know, scary, aggressive violence to you and your community. So that was just, I love that. And I don't know, I mean, do your daughters know that you did that?
I told them, but I don't think they really understood. And honestly, that was normal. What I expressed to you, walking in those streets, that was normal. That was how it was always that way. You just learn to avoid the homeless, and there weren't that many at that time, but definitely there were plenty of prostitutes.
Right.
And the weird, you know, interesting thing is there weren't Girl Scouts. They just didn't have them in my neighborhood. We were just too ethnic, and there was nobody who wanted to start a troop. You know, you had to be a parent who was involved. So my only choice was I could take a bus to the children's hospital, be a candy striper, or do this. Those were my only two choices for the summer. So I chose that, and then it until I was 15. Yeah. So it was
Amazing.
yeah, and I really did like it. So so it didn't bother me to take the bus to Skid Row. It was normal. I never thought about it. I just learned to be aware.
Yeah, no, you had street smarts, and that's what I was mentioning earlier. Like we, you know, young women and girls need to learn how to be aware if they don't have that sense early on, you know? Yeah.
You know, I never learned this from my parents either. They were just too busy.
Something. Yeah,
Okay.
it's inside of you.
Mhm.
It's inside of you. You claim that as your own.
Yeah.
Yeah.
One quick note on what Barbara mentioned about tasers and pepper spray. Tasers are not legal in New York. They're probably not legal in a lot of other states. You have to be a police officer. And pepper spray is not going to stop somebody that's drugged up, psychotic, or wearing glasses. Better to carry a pen, a big pen. The best pen to carry is a cross pen. It's metal. You can stop somebody quicker with a pen than with pepper spray. So keep taking those martial art lessons. There's a lot to learn that people don't realize.
Okay. I'm going to Goodwill to pick up some old pens.
Yeah, get a cross pen, the metal ones.
Me too.
Well, I think, oh my gosh, I'm sure we could talk so much more, but
It's okay.
maybe, oh my gosh, Lana, that was so incredible.
Incredible.
And you know, and right, in summary, you've been very brave to share your story. And also, I think we're all so honored for you to share your story with us. I'm very, very touched. We're all very, very touched on a lot of deep levels. And to me, I mean, it's kind of interesting. Said, you know, your family, meaning your daughters, probably don't know all of these layers. But also, the thought crossed my mind, two things. Number one, they may not even understand or open to the depth of what you've gone through. So, I mean, our group here, maybe it's our life experience, our age, but it's much different than where your daughters are. So, sharing your story with your daughters probably won't have, will have, Leticia would say, the art of interpretation, the art of, the experience of where we are relative to your children. So, I mean, I'm just going to share that part. And also, think about, doing feng shui, it's always the people closest to you who really don't understand or not really open to what we're doing, our, all these woo-woo or this transcendental or just the concept about, space. So it's just so many layers here, so many layers. But so let's take some time. If you're open to it, people will just take some time and just be. And with sincere thanks, Lana, for sharing an incredible piece of your life here.
Yes, thank you so much. I really, really enjoyed your essay. It was awesome. And you are awesome.
Thank you guys for listening to me for an hour.
Thank you so much. I have to go. Have a great day, everybody.
Oh, see you later, Mary Beth. Have a beautiful day.
So Lana, you want to lead the meditation?
Oh, no. No, I'm okay. That's why I look up to RD.
Oh.
Thank you.
Giving you the opportunity.
Another time.
So let's just close by sitting together today. And let's just relax and breathe. Put your feet flat on the floor. Sit comfortably in our chairs. And find a place that truly nurtures our soul and our spirit. And breathe. Breathe deeply. Inhale and exhale. And let's just take this time of just being. And just relax and breathe. Maybe we're sitting in a beautiful Chinese gazebo in a garden. Or maybe sitting at the mountains with the Kung Fu masters. Or maybe just simply sitting in a church or a temple. Just feeling so grateful for our resilience and courage and bravery. Breathe. And just feel the support of just being here together. Our family of bells. Quiet the mind. Open our hearts. And share the light. Just be. Breathing in and breathing out. So let's all gently, gently come gather together on the beach. And we'll walk up to the lighthouse, to the lantern. And the lighthouse is a beacon of hope, shining our light of survival and strength, love and gratitude. And the lighthouse symbolizes we are firmly rooted to Mother Earth, yet we can share our light with strength and resilience. And the lighthouse transforms into this beautiful lotus flower, purple healing chi energy, just shining forth. So let's gently, gently take our hands, our petals, and embrace ourselves. And welcome, welcome this healing purple chi of strength and bravery and resilience. And let's close our time together with the ringing of the bell. Om Mani Padme Hum, Mani Padme Hum, Mani Padme Hum. Om Mani Padme Hum, Mani Padme Hum, Mani Padme Hum. Om Mani Padme Hum, Mani Padme Hum, Mani Padme Hum. Om Mani Padme Hum. The six true words just filled with compassion and kindness and love and gratitude. And gently, gently take our hands and slowly rub them together. Awaken the chi cells. And then slowly, slowly can caress your face, cleanse your face. Gentle little tap, 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 tap along your face and your head, and rub our ears. Gently tap along the meridians of your arms and our shoulders, our hearts and our organs. Tap dance on the earth, feel the earth, and do a nice little V for victory, a stretch. Yes. Thank you so much. I'm going to close the recording.